Hey everyone, John here. Welcome back to part 4 of this tutorial series. In the last tutorial, we looked at how to model the logo and add the wires. And in this tutorial, we're going to just have one last look at the model. I'm going to show you how I prepared it for unwrapping. Then we're going to send it across to Rizom UV and do a quick unwrap. So let's go. Since the last tutorial, I just finished this model off. I added in a curve for this particular cable here and one for this. These are very, very simple, just creating a new curve and then just moving the verts into place and adjusting the Bezier handles. It was much easier to use just a normal vanilla curve from Blender than using the geo cables, and I was able to do that very quickly. In order to prepare that for unwrapping, I had to right click and choose convert to mesh. And I had to do the same for the geo cables. And I think that was pretty much it. Just making sure that everything was a mesh. Just organizing my object panel a little bit, my scene. And also just making sure that there was no flipped normals. So all of the faces were facing the correct way. And just double checking the geometry to make sure that there was no errors in it. And with that done, I'm ready to send that across to Rizom UV. And why am I using Rizom UV? Well, I haven't learned how to do it in Blender. It appears to be getting easier and easier in Blender, but I'm so used to Rizom UV. It's my weapon of choice when I unwrap UVs. It's so easy to use. And thanks to the Rizom UV Bridge, which I use here in Blender, and you can grab the Rizom UV Bridge on Blender Market. It's very cheap. And you'll see how quickly and easy I can send this across to Rizom UV. So I'll select everything because I haven't unwrapped anything yet. And you could send pieces of this across at a time just by clicking export and then saving it in Rizom UV and then coming back to Blender and clicking import, and it will update. And I just want to say also that one of the reasons I do really love this is because if I save this as, or if I export it as an FBX, and then I do my unwrapping in Rizom UV, and then I re-import it, I'm going to lose all of my organization over here in the scene. So I definitely don't want to do that. I want to keep all that in place. So with that selected, I'm going to click export. And that'll send that across to Rizom UV, quick as a flash, and there we go. So I've done unwrapping tutorials in Rizom UV before. I'm not going to necessarily go step by step. I'll show you the main strokes, and then I'll jump forward. So the first thing I do, you can see here, it looks really weird. It's got all these orange lines. These are all cuts that are in the model already. And the best thing I've found to do with this is just to come up and choose unwrap, unflatten. So that unflattens it. Then I'm going to select it all like that. And I'm going to hit W to weld. And that welds all of those cuts back together. So now I've got a 3D model over here in the 3D window and a 3D model over here in the 2D window. And a good way to work is in the 3D window, just to show 3D, and in the flat or 2D window, just show flat. So that disappeared because there's no flat ones yet. There's nothing that's unwrapped. So what I'm going to do is, it's been a while since I've been in Rizom UV. I'm going to see how much I remember. So I think very quickly, I can just select these faces because remember, these are just flat faces from Blender. And with my cursor over one of them, just press U and unwrap. There you go, boom. So I can just move that up out of the way because I'm going to sort of pack this all later. I could actually just select that and group it like that. So that's now a group. Okay, so why don't I do the as well? So with my cursor over that, just unwrap that. And I'll just bring that up there. I might want to group that together later. I think the next thing to do would be to go ahead and do all of these extrusions. And these aren't necessarily going to fit if I just create one seam and unwrap. So I'm going to have to sort of cut them into pieces. And I'll just show you how quickly I can just do one. Maybe just do this one here. Now, we've got this nice bevel on the front, and if I put a seam here, if I do a cut, obviously we're going to have a seam in Substance Painter. And I want to try and avoid that. So one thing I could do is just cut this off at about there. So, and if I just move my cursor over here and unwrap that one, you can see that's unwrapped now. That might or may not be enough unwrapping. If I move my cursor over and just hit O, I can optimize that as well. And that optimizes that right out. So what I can also do is just select it and hit tab and just move that out of the way. So I might want to cut that up a bit more later. And with this, it's pretty flexible. I'm not going to spend a lot of time texturing this. And this is pretty much just some sort of metallic texture. And if I just go into edge mode and just double click that and hit C to cut and then U to unwrap. So that's basically one. I'll just do one more. Maybe this one here. So I probably want to cut the front off again. So cutting it off from maybe there. Unwrap that. There you go. There's the front of the C. And I could probably take that, cut there. It's going to be fairly long, this one. So I'd probably want to cut it into 2 at least. I'll move over this piece here because that's a separate piece now. And I hit U and that unwraps that. There it is there. These may be a little too long, right? So if I unwrap that, maybe it doesn't look too bad. I'm not really using UDIMs on this, so I'm fairly restricted on how high the texel density can be. And it's really whatever, I can fit into this one UV tile. So we'll see. But it doesn't matter because we're not going to get too close to this. If I really wanted to get super close to the logo, I'd want to use UDIMs, and then I can have really high texel density textures. So that's basically how I would approach this. So I'm going to go ahead and cut all of these up now, and I'll be back in a moment. All right, so I've unwrapped that. It took me about 10 minutes. It was super easy. You can see my scene's looking pretty empty now. And I've got these 2 big piles of look like rubbish here. So I'm just going to select all of that. That's all of the extrusions, and this is the front of the extrusions here. So grab all that, move that out of the way. We'll talk about organizing these a bit more when we've unwrapped everything. Let's come back across to here, and what I'll do next is just unwrap these pipes or these wires. So I'm going to unwrap this from the back because obviously I can hide the seam at the back. So if I just hit C and U, there's that one. So easy. And grab this one again from the back. These will be the easiest ones. CU. And this one's not easy to hide the seam because it's twisted. So if I choose it at the back, obviously it's going to come around the front a little bit, but that's okay. CU. If I use triplanar in Substance Painter, I think should be able to hide that. And also won't be too many things as far as textures go on this to make the seam visible. Be pretty straightforward. Like I'm talking about bumps and scratches and stuff that would obviously show the seam. Unwrap. So easy. I'll just quickly grab this one and this one. Do these all at once. This one and this one. C, and then just U, like that. So these are so easy to do. I'm going to grab those and just move those out of the way. Little pile there. So next we have these little connectors. And here we can use topo copies. So I'm going to do one just from the back and C and unwrap. So there it is there. I'm going to select that and I'm going to come up here and I'm going to click this button here. So this is update similar. And there you go. They're all done. Because we know they're the same geometry, right? It's just a repeat of that geometry. So we'll grab those, put those over there. Okay. And let's do Let's see, let's do one of these. So I'd like to have this as one piece. Let's see if I can work out how to do that. Now, if I hit I can isolate that. And maybe grab that, try and unwrap this like a box. And there. I'm just holding down the Shift key and the right mouse button key. And by the way, if you're new to Rizom UV, you can come up to the edit menu and set your keyboard and mouse settings. I've got mine set to Blender, so I'm using the Blender shortcuts. But you've got a range of different ones to choose from there. Okay, so let me just see how far that gets me. So I'll press C and U. Look at that. So it's not quite there, right? Now I just want to see that again, so I'm going to hit both. I need to probably, I can probably choose anywhere to do that. Maybe at the back. There we go. Just needed to do one more and look nice and clean. So I'll just move away from the geometry and just press I and bring everything back. And what I will do is select this one and once again use select similar or update similar. And there we go. That's all of those done. I'll grab all of those and just move those up there or just there and do the next one. Now these are going to be so easy, these ones. So I'll just unwrap one because there's no cuts to do with this. And what we'll do is we'll just do the same. So we'll just do everything. And did it do it? Let's try again. There we go. So they're all done. Probably the fastest yet. Grab those. Move those up there. And we've got two different things to do. Actually, we've got a couple more because these ones we did adjust. So these ones are slightly different. So I'll just isolate one of these and I'll quickly go ahead and select that. I'll just pause for a moment. So I've got that selected now. So I will hit C and U. Excellent. Once again, select that and just update geometry. Should be able to get all of them, I hope. Let's see here. We go I. Bring that back. Select that again. There we go. It's all of those. I'll put those across with the other ones. It's over here. We'll organize those a little bit later. Once again, I'll go back and show my 3D. So almost done. So let's try one of these. I think I'll cut this off. And take this cut through the back. Like that. C, U. And this one, I could probably come in and just select, let's see. I want to be actually in polygon mode. And I can select individual polygons, or I'm just looking for the settings here. What I want is the polygon magic wand. Just click planar and just click like that. Now I can hit C and U. There we go. Hit plus on the numpad. I can add to that selection. I'm just wondering though, maybe this one will be the easiest to unwrap by, or the most optimal just by grabbing these corners. Like that. Pressing C and U to unwrap. So that looks pretty good. So I'll just grab all of that. And I will copy that. update similar. So I've only got 4 to go. And these should all be the same. I'll just grab these ones, move them across. And I'm just going to select these the same way. So go ahead and do that. And there we go. There it is there. So I should be able to copy that across to here. There we go. Done. I'll just move that across with these ones. And next I'm ready to start organizing these and packing them. And as I mentioned before, I'm not using UDIMs, so I've only got one UV tile to work with. So that is fairly limiting, but I'm also not going to be really super uptight about squeezing every single pixel out of the texel density as well. It's going to get it, fairly organized and fairly tidy so that it's straightforward in Substance Painter. So first thing to do is change the map resolution. I've got 2048. I can do it over here, or I can come over here and just choose 4K, because that'll effectively allow me to double the texel density from 2K. So that's pretty good. I'm going to now just select the different groups or the different objects, same or like objects, and I'm going to hit G to group and then P to pack. It's pretty easy, right? And I'm probably going to do more of a sort of manual pack for this and position things where I want them. I could obviously just hit P and it would pack it for me, which is super straightforward. So you can do it the rough and dirty way. Rizom UV's got lots of features in there to allow things to happen pretty quickly and do things in a quick and dirty way, but also sort of granular tools to allow you to organize things, to the nth degree. I'm going to undo and just try and find a balance with those. So once again, just going to group each of the different ones and get them fairly organized. Having, these as different groups and, positioned neatly on the UV tile just makes it easier to select those in Substance Painter. That's pretty good. These ones can be grouped. Very nice. And obviously these are a lot bigger. So I'll just group these and pack them. And I'm not going to bother straightening them out. I could select, that one, and I could come over and I could, let's find it here, use the straighten panel, do something like that. And see, it straightens it out quite nicely, but it does stretch the UVs somewhat. And I don't really want to do that. So yeah, there's different options for straightening. You can pin things, you can use the straighten panel. Like I said, I'm not going to be too worried about that. I can also, press O and, optimize. Maybe I should select all of those and optimize them a little bit. But that's straight enough for me. Now these ones probably could do with a bit more unwrapping, because if we come back to both, you can see, if we look at that one, this is the S and the T joined up, and you're getting some overlap there, and it's not ideal. So I'm going to have to cut this up a little bit more. And I haven't cut the front face off either by the looks of things. So I need to do that. And I'll just grab that and just move it away. This also still needs to be cut up a little bit more. So I'm just going to hit I to isolate that. And it's probably a good idea to sort of cut these in the corners. So if I unwrap that again, there you go, nice and straight. It's quite long, but it probably will still fit in there. Hit I again and just isolate this one now. And maybe I should cut that. I'm going to have to cut across the bevel this time. That did cut it, and I should cut this one as well. If I want to see where that is, I can just have a look on here. So that's that top corner. So see, unwrap. And basically, you're just trying to put seams in the least obvious place. But sometimes you just have to cut things just to make it fit. What else have we got? We've got... So these are the oddest shapes, right? So these are going to be the hardest things to fit into the UV tile. Let me just turn on my checkerboard. So at the moment, if I just click away, everything's looking nice and straight. You can see the lines of the checkerboard are nice and straight. If I decide I want to straighten this up like that, so you've got to just have a look and see what it does. Doesn't look too bad. It's done a pretty good job there. But if it started to distort that line, then you may not want to, stretch it out that way. But that's not actually that bad. So there's this one here. Let's also straighten this one up. That looks pretty good too. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut a few things up and straighten them up, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've gone ahead and straightened the ones that I could. I've had to put a couple of seams in there. I decided to leave the as it was. It's fairly small, and I've decided to leave the C's like they were as well. And for this one, I couldn't quite straighten it. Sometimes you will get an error. So I'm just going to leave that one as it is. And I'm just going to, I've already grouped them, so I'm just going to pack them. And see, we get a much more even pack there, a bit more optimized. Not ideal there, but we can move things around. And that's basically everything. I'm going to leave the separate, so this is easier to pack. And if I go ahead now and just move my cursor away and hit P, this will pack my groups. Very nice. Let's take a look at the texel density now. So let's take a look at this one. 2.51. So we've lost some texel density there. 2.51. So we've got an even text density all the way around. So it's the settings that I've got, the default settings, have given me a even 2.51, and everything fits pretty well. So I've still got lots of space in there, so it probably would be possible to optimize this even more. But I'm fairly happy with that, as long as everything fits and everything's, well organized. I could go a little more manual, but I think that's pretty good. What I might do is just grab the and just bring that up. And I'm just going to rotate that. Yes, it is just under transform. I'm just going to rotate that. Move that up here. And I can make, any manual adjustments I want to. What I can also do, I've got checkerboard there, but I can come up and I can turn on grid. And you can see that the number 58 there is correctly oriented because we have this all correctly oriented. The rest of it doesn't really matter. I'm not worried about the orientation of it. One other thing I just want to quickly point out while it just occurs to me is straightening these things. We talked about using straighten would be really important if I was doing things like stitches or rivets or something like that in my texturing application like Substance Painter. That'd be much easier to do on a straight UV island. But here I'm not worried about that because I'm not adding any of that sort of stuff. I may just grab this one and just, I can't afford to give myself a bit more space here. And I'm purposely not scaling these up to fit because that would change the texel density to be uneven. So I definitely don't want to do that. Could probably just bring this down. You can see how the group updates. Myself a bit more space. I could maybe bring this down into here. And I'm by no means an expert with Rizom UV. but I do find it very easy to use, and it's something I'll be sticking with. Okay, so overall I reckon that's pretty good. Didn't take too long. So I'm going to save that and come back across to Blender. And back here in Blender, everything's still selected, so I click Import. And it says 39 objects were updated, no problems were encountered, which is important. We come across to the UV Editing tab. There we go. That's it. So you can see how easy that is, along with the Rizom UV Bridge and Rizom. So that's pretty much ready to take across to Substance Painter. So we're going to do that in the next tutorial. So thanks for watching. I look forward to seeing you in tutorial 5 of the series.